Good day, everyone! Most especially to all my students of Placida Miquiavas National High School. How are you guys? I hope you are doing great today. It's me again, your teacher, Mamshi Ives, saying stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, stay at home and have fun in answering all of your modules. And I would like to welcome you all to Lesson 2, Determining the Purpose of Text Aids of English 10 Quarter 1 Module 2. What do you need to know in this lesson? Okay, so in this lesson, you are expected to identify the different purpose of textual aids, transpose nonlinear information to text, and determine the effects of textual aids on the understanding of the text. Now here is your first activity for lesson 2. Here is the directions. Read each question carefully and choose the letter of the correct answer. Write your answers in your answer sheet. Number 1. Which graph shows how data changes over time? A. Bar graph. B. Line graph. C. Pictograph. Or D. Pie graph. The correct answer is letter B. Line graph. Now let's move on to number 2. Which graph shows proportions and how each proportion or part relates to the other parts and to the whole? A. Bar graph. B. Line graph. C. Pictograph. Or D. Pie graph. The correct answer is, of course, letter D. Pie graph. Number 3. Which of the following is a graphic element often found in text? A. Chart. B. Graphs. C. Maps. Or D. Pictures. Of course, the correct answer for number 3 is letter D. Pictures. Now let's continue with number 4 question. Which of the following provides a visual portrait of data and its relationships and includes varieties like bar, line, and pie? A. Chart. B. Graphs. C. Maps. Or D. Pictures. The correct answer for number 4 is we have letter B. Graphs. Now let's move on to number 5. Which of the following provides a visual portrait of how something works and is put together or how sets of data overlap? A. Diagrams. B. Graphs. C. Maps. D. Pictures. The correct answer for number 5, B. Graphs. Now let's continue. Number 6. Which of the following presents a picture or chart that shows the rivers, mountains, streets, and other places in a particular area? A. Diagrams. B. Graphs. C. Maps. D. Pictures. The correct answer for number 6 is, of course, we have letter C. Maps. Number 7. What type of graph is this? A. Bar graph. C. Pictograph. B. Line graph. Or D. Pie graph. Of course, it's very obvious. The correct answer for number 7 is letter A. Bar graph. Now let's move on to number 8. What kind of pet is being owned the most? A. Cat. B. Dog. C. Goldfish, or D. Hamster? Okay, as you can see in the graph, the pet which is being owned the most is this one, and it's cat. So the answer is letter A. Okay, for item number 9, study the graph, then complete the paragraph using the data presented in the graph. Write your answer in your, of course, answer sheet. Okay, so this is the graph. Number 9. 1/8 kilo of beef supplies 60% of what daily requirement? A. Calcium, B. Protein, C. Vitamin B1, D. Vitamin B3. The correct answer is letter 60%. So we have here 60%. So it's vitamin B3, niacin. It's letter D, as in dog. Now let's move on to number 10. Based on the graph, 1/8 kilo of beef supplies about 28% of what nutrient? So 28, this is 30, this is 20, and this is 28. So it's iron. It's letter B. Again, the correct answer for number 10 is letter B. Now let's move on to number 11. How many percent of the protein requirement does it supply? A. 10, B. 20, C. 30, D. 50. The correct answer for number 11 is letter, let's find out, protein. Protein is this one, or how many percent? So it's 30, letter C. Number 12 to 13. Which pair of nutrients will complete the statement based on the graph? Beef contains no blank and no blank, also known as ascorbic acid. A. Calcium and vitamin E. B. Iron and protein. C. Vitamin A and vitamin C. Or D. Vitamin B1 and vitamin B2. So let's go back to the graph again. So which pair of nutrients will complete the statement based on the paragraph? Beef contains no. So we have here vitamin C, no vitamin C, and also no vitamin A. Again, for number 12, beef contains no vitamin A and no vitamin C. So the correct answer for number 12 is letter C. By the way, that's for items number 12 and 13, letter C. Now let's move on to number 14. Which of the following graphics is used in displaying numerical data and presenting summarized information in rows and columns? So you all know about that already. So the correct answer is letter C, tables. Number 15. Which of the following items is the most realistic and dramatic presentation or representation of physical features in which the reader can see exactly what the writer is talking about? A. Image or picture. B. Italic and bold letters. C. Table. Or D. Title. The correct answer is, of course, letter A. Image or picture. Now let's move on to your next activity, your second activity for this lesson. And here is the directions. Supply the missing letters to form the word or terms referred to In each statement, write your answer in your activity notebook. Number 1. The letters are I, G. Okay, this is a representation of physical features in which the reader can see exactly what the writer is talking about. What do you think is the answer for number 1? Okay, the correct answer for number 1 is image. Number 2. They are used in displaying numerical data and presenting summarized information in rows and columns. So this question has been asked already during the previous activity. So the correct answer for number 2 is, of course, tables. Number 3, PGP. Okay, it is a circular chart which is divided into slices, very familiar, or portions to illustrate proportion. The correct answer for number 3 is, of course, pie graph. Number 4, LOHR. It is a graphical or symbolic representation of a process. What do you think is the correct answer? Of course, it is flow chart. Now let's move on to number 5. It is a visual depiction of the similarities and differences between two or more different items. And this graph is very common to you students. The correct answer for number 5 is Venn diagram. So, did you get all the items correct? If yes, that's great. If not, try to go back and review the previous lesson. Now let's explore. Important words are sometimes written in bold to catch the attention of the reader. Italicized words are used to meanings, synonyms, footnotes, and many others depending on the style of the writer, which he or she believes would make the words more visible and easy to remember. This will make it easy for readers to memorize, remember, and learn important words more quickly and easily. Text features or text aids are parts of the text that signal you to look over because it states important information. They often enhance information from the text and sometimes supply information not found in the text. Textual aids can help you better see and understand the information, thus enhance your comprehension. They provide visual explanations of concepts and relationships and enable you to grasp and recall information easily. There are many types of textual aids, and it is important for you to understand the uses and purposes of each. A title is a story's first impression. It creates anticipation and expectation, or even disinterest. The main purpose of a title is to grab attention and entice people to start reading the text. Next, a flow chart or sequence shows a series of steps or events in the order in which they take place. It is an excellent tool for teaching the steps necessary to reach a final point. The following examples illustrate the many uses of flow diagrams or sequence charts. In reading, sequence charts can be used to outline the key events in a story or chapter. In science, they can serve as the procedures section in the scientific process. In history, they can be created as a timeline. Now let's move on. A compare or contrast or Venn diagram is used to identify the similarities and differences between two or more concepts. Now, next, the graphs, such as bar or line, present numerical data pictorially, helping readers visualize relationships among those data. Tables. It compares information expressed as numbers. They present large amounts of data in simple, brief, and clear format, which would be bulky, confusing, and inaccessible in prose. A map shows location. It is a representation of an area of land or sea showing physical features. Next, a diagram shows the parts of an object. Now you just learned about the use and purpose of textual aids. Go try on the activities ahead. So here is your activity. Task 1, find the aid. Look at the picture and answer the questions. Write your answers on your answer sheet. So question number 1. What is the title of the story? So of course it is written there on top. It's Daedalus and Icarus. That's the answer for number 1. Now let's move on to number 2. What do you think is the story all about? So for you to answer question number 2, you have to read the story. So number 2, the correct answer is, it is about the adventure of Daedalus and Icarus, who created wings in order to escape the labyrinth. Again, the correct answer for number 2 is this one. It is about the adventure of Daedalus and Icarus, who created wings in order to escape the labyrinth. For the third time, correct answer for number 2 is, it is about the adventure of Daedalus and Icarus, who created wings in order to escape the labyrinth. So that's it for number 2. Let's move on to number 3. What is the effect of the title in bold and capital letters? What is the effect of the title in bold and capital letters? Okay, the answer for number 3 is, it gives an overview of the story. Again, the correct answer for number 3 is, it gives an overview of the story. So that's all for task 1. Now let's move on to task 2, which is understanding cartoon. Analyze the cartoon and answer the questions that follow. Write your answers in your answer sheet. So here is the picture. Okay, what is the cartoon all about? So we have here the students, and then the DepEd hand. So meaning to say that the DepEd is guiding the students to cross going to school. We also have here addiction. So the DepEd also help the students keep away from addiction. So that's it. Let's move on to question number 1. What is the cartoon all about? Okay, as you can see there, it is about, or it shows that students are guided by DepEd towards a brighter future. Again, the correct answer for number 1, it shows that students are guided by DepEd towards a brighter future. Very good. Again, for the third time, it shows that students are guided by DepEd towards a brighter future. Now let's move on to number 2. What message does the cartoon imply? Okay, it implies that DepEd helps the learners to keep away from addiction and lead them to a brighter future. Again, the correct answer for number 2 is, it implies that DepEd helps the learners to keep away from addiction and lead them to a brighter future. Again, for the third time, the correct answer for number 2 is it implies that DepEd helps the learners to keep away from addiction and lead them to a brighter future. So that's it for number 2. Let's move on to number 3. How does the cartoon help you in understanding the text? Okay, the correct answer for number 3. 3 rather. The cartoon quickly shows the message it wants to convey. Again, the cartoon quickly shows the message it wants to convey. For the third time, this is the correct answer for number 3. The cartoon quickly shows the message it wants to convey. Now, let's move on to your next activity, which is task 3, graph analysis. So you're going to study the graph and answer the following questions, and you are going to write your answers in your answer sheet. So this is an example of a line graph. So on the left side, we have distance by meters, so from 0 up to 100. Below, we have here time by seconds, so from 0 up to 18. On top, we have here Albert, Bob, and Charlie. So, question number 1. What does the slope of each line on the graph show? What does the slope of each line on the graph show? Number 1. The correct answer is it shows the distance and time traveled by the runners. So Albert, Bob, and Charlie are the runners. Again, the correct answer for number 1 is it shows the distance and time traveled by the runners. That's the correct answer for number 1. Now let's move on to number 2. Which runner completed the 100 race in the least amount of time? What was his time? So the correct answer for number 2 is, okay, we have Albert. Albert completed the 100 meter race with only 12 seconds. Again, the correct answer for number 2 is Albert. He completed it within 12 seconds. Again, the correct answer for number 2 is Albert. He completed the race, the 100 meter race, within 12 seconds. Now, let's continue. Which runner started out the fastest? We have there the upper line, of course. So, the runner which started the fastest is, we have Charlie. That's the correct answer for number 3. Now let's move on to number 4. What was Charlie doing between 8 seconds and 10.5 seconds? Again, what was Charlie doing between 8 seconds and 10.5 seconds? Let's go back to the graph. So here, from 8 seconds up to 10.5 seconds. Okay, the correct answer for that is, we have this one. He is at rest. So Charlie was resting. This one. Again, the correct answer for number 4 is Charlie is at rests. Next, number 5. Which runner ended last? At what time? Which runner ended last and at what time? The correct answer for number 5 is, of course, this one. It's Charlie. Charlie finished it within 17 seconds. So that's the correct answer for number 5. Again, the correct answer for number 5 is Charlie ended last and he finished it within 17 seconds. Now let's move on to the last question for task 3. And this time your answers may vary. So this time you are going to give your own opinion. Number 6. How does the graph help you in understanding the text? Again, how does the graph help you in understanding the text?